A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Thank you very much for the great discussion on Facebook around the first English video in this topic. It has, as expected, generated quite a bit of interest among our younger generation. Again, this program is being recorded in front of a remote live audience. We will have some questions. We have 7 questions from the previous video, which we will address first, and then we will move on to a couple of other topics that were discussed in the assembly. We aim to be thorough so that there is no doubt left in what we're trying to say here. So with that in mind, let me get to the questions that have been posed. And if you have any questions now, we will listen to them as well. So please pay attention to what we are trying to say. So the first question on Facebook is from Thomas Tajab Karim Karvend. He says that he shows a couple of clips that the Ahmadis have put on YouTube saying that some Muslim ulama have doubted the proceedings. So the first answer to that is that we are going to go through the proceedings. What X, Y, or Z thinks about that is their opinion. You form your own opinion. Then I will get into the 2 specific examples that they have given. I've been shown 4 clips, out of which there are really 2 examples. And in the first clip, there is Ilyas Abidi, Shia orator, who says, again, these are sectarian videos. This is one sect trying to use the 1973 proceedings as a hammer to beat up the other sect. So beat up the other school of thought, not sect. I don't believe in sects, but I use the word sectarianism. Abidi Sahib says that Mirza Sahib held the view that he believed in Khatam al-Nabiyyin. Abidi Sahib omits the fact that this was the belief before 1901, and after 1901, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad actually claimed to be a prophet, and this is what the Qadianis believe. So he is taking the Lahori point of view. So there are 2 main branches of Ahmadis. One who consider Mirza Ghulam Ahmad a prophet based on his writings before 1901, and those that consider Mirza Ghulam Ahmad those that consider Mirza Ghulam Ahmad not to be a prophet and only give references from his writings before 1901, and the Qadiani branch which gives references from after 1901, and they believe him to be a prophet. Mirza Masroor Sahib, the current head of the Ahmadiyya Qadianiya, has solved this issue, said he was a prophet, say it, and many more prophets can come. There is Khatam al-Nabiyyin, the seal of prophethood does not mean that there will be no more prophets. So that issue is now moot. So this issue that the Shia orator Ilyas Abidi related is now gone. The second and third clip are from, I got one other name, Sayyid Irfan Shah Mashhadi, who is referencing Tahzirun Nas, a book by Allama Qasim Nanotwi of the Deobandi school. Again, he's trying to hammer the Deobandis. In that book, Maulana Nanotwi is discussing a very subtle topic. He says that he's talking about the whole universe, that a prophet can appear on another planet. So he is going through a hypothetical question, and he says that if a prophet appears on another planet, that does not violate the finality of prophethood here on earth. So, and that has been used by the opponents of the Deobandis to hammer this book Tahzirun Nas. So again, I don't see anything here. Both of these gentlemen were not in the part of the 1974 proceedings. Members of their elders were in the 1974 proceedings in Parliament, and they're just making cheap points at the expense of each other by having this sectarian conversation between the different schools of thoughts. So that answers question 1. Question 2. In the 22. In the investigation, cross-examination are the questions of Khatam al-Nabiyyin, Ummati Nabi, and whether a prophet can come or not dealt with. I'm currently not able to read it in its totality because of the Urdu. Please tell. Fantastic. That's why I'm here. And yes, all those will be addressed, and we will elaborate on them. And as time goes on, we will be very thorough because the propaganda around this has started to reach a point where it needs to be addressed. Question number 3. WikiLeaks has shown a cable from 1974 shows that Pakistani ulama were trying to seek help from Saudi and other leaders. This is exactly as we said in my last English video, part 4 in English, saying that the opposition parties, the ulama, were in opposition to the PPP. The PPP was supporting the Ahmadis, and the ulama were trying to take advantage of the incident in Rabwa and trying to take advantage of the summit in Lahore, which were two different things, not related, and took advantage of that. And on the eve, this is what I said, on the eve of the summit, they distributed propaganda. And after that incident occurred, the Rabwa incident, after the summit, they sent cables and messages to all the people who participated in the summit, trying to get their sympathy. So that is not anything new or anything news. Yes, the Islamic parties tried their level best over decades to get the Ahmadis and especially the Qadianis to be declared non-Muslim. And then in this same cable, Majlis declared that Bhutto could have taken administrative decision on subject, and that in any case he should have suspended National Assembly budget session to allow MNAs to consider their question. Members would continue peaceful and dignified agitation, and all Pakistan Majlis had been created. Tehreek-e-Istiqlal leader get rid of Mr. Bhutto was people to take to the streets, asked if he leave Bhutto. He was available to shoulder the responsibility. Okay, so this cable shows the pressure that was being put on Bhutto to have the National Assembly proceedings. And this is exactly what I said in my last video, that if a democratically elected government ever were to consider this issue impartially, with evidence from both sides, they would not have reached any other conclusion. Should this issue have come to Parliament or not, or should it have been resolved politically or through the courts or some other way? That is up to history. History said that when Bhutto came under pressure, and because of the pressure that Jamaat and Mirza Nasir and Mirza Tahir were also applying on him from inside the party, the only option he had was say, okay, fine, I'll put this before Parliament. He did not anticipate that this issue would be decided against the Ahmadis, but as we will see, it was the absolute emptiness of the Ahmadiyya arguments that led to them being defeated in this session. So again, is this the only way to resolve the problem at that time? No. But once having put this to a democratically elected parliament, there was no other logical conclusion that could have come out of it. Question number 4. Saudi Arabia. Number 4, Saudi Arabia is proven to have an interest in facing what they call the danger of the Ahmadiyya, according to the Saudi cable leaks. Yes, Saudi, and they give an example of the Indonesian Saudi leaks. If you go through the whole cables, you will see that all the embassies are always looking for Saudi interests. If there's anything against Islam, against pro-Iran, pro-Shia, the Ahmadi religion problem in Indonesia, they're always sending back, and Saudi supports this, and Saudi has always supported this. Saudi does not allow Ahmadis, Qadianis to come to Mecca and Medina for Hajj. So the problem is there isn't anything new here. Saudi will support any embassy that says we need support here. Saudi will support, and in Indonesia they supported and intervened the government, and it says explicitly in there, we do not condone any violence when confronting the Ahmadis on their attempt to harm Islam or harm democratically elected government, as we have shown that they were harming the PPP and the democratically elected government of Pakistan in between 1970 and 1974. Question number 5. Number 5. Well, I have started to think that you guys have a tendency to pick certain coarse expression or whatever and then twist it to suit your version of things. However, I've given some very good indication that your version is not the correct. I have not studied your stuff thoroughly though, but I take that you are saying that the proceedings were fair and square. If so, feel free to say otherwise. Evidence I've given very much gives a picture of a completely different version. So, my friend, there is no dichotomy here. It's not one version versus the other version. It's about 3,000 pages of proceedings. We'll go through them. It may take time. We may finish properly, or we may have to rush through it. But it is for you to understand and make up your mind. There are no two competing with this. This dichotomy is always the hallmark of cults who want to show as us and the other. There is no us and other here. There is one truth. There is one statement that Mirza Nasir gave, and you and I cannot dispute it. And there is one statement that the other side gave. So we're not picking anything. Any question you can ask now, or you can ask later, and we will address it. Question number 6. Number 6. Seems that this was pre-planned. This Saudi Arabia cable shows that it was pre-planned. It says, in quotation from 2nd September by MNA Sardar Anayatur Rahman Khan Abbasi. He said on 2nd September 1974, the response that they brought before this house, it is a dark spot on our scholars. It is a great charge on them. I believe our scholars should face the public and answer these charges. I have read Mufti Saab's answer in the Tawil dictionary where he has accumulated his knowledge. I read it all, but not for one instance have their charges been refuted. God knows if they are true or false. If they are false, I will accept it, but you have not provided any argument. So this question about Sardar Anayatur Rahman Khan Abbasi is very interesting, and this shows the utter dishonesty of the Ahmadiyya, or whoever produced this quote. Yes, it is true that on September 2nd, towards the end of the debate, parliamentarians were invited to give their opinions. And this member of parliament, after, we will show you on the screen, 2 or 3 pages of testimony, which included the oath that the Ahmadiyya have to, the oath that Muslims have to sign about the Ahmadiyya. And he says this has opened his eyes, and he is 100% for this resolution and everything else. But then he went on to attack Mufti Mahmud Saab. Again, it was the attacking the Deobandis and saying that Mufti Mahmud Saab opened up, his references opened up a way of attack for the Ahmadis on them. And immediately the Speaker of the House said, stop, a point of order, and they stopped his testimony. And then after back and forth between different members, he said, okay, fine, I will not talk about sectarian things, but this is my statement. So the statement over a number of pages, and we will show you on screen now, and we will talk about it when we come to it, shows that he was 100% in agreement with everybody else in that parliament. And why? Because when the hearings began, there were very secular members who did not subscribe to the opposition, the ulama, but when they found out in the climax of the hearing that they were the ones that were being called kafir by the Ahmadis, the whole house became united. So this question and this reference alone from that single member of parliament, out of context, out of his 3 pages of testimony, and taken out of context, where he was just trying to make a sectarian attack, which was stopped by the Speaker of the House. This shows the utter dishonesty and lying of the Ahmadiyya once again. Then we have the last question from Mr. Zarif. He says, have you been crazy, or your mother and father and grandmothers and grandfathers and your great-grandmothers and great-grandfathers become crazy? What makes you Satan, a living Satan? Can you stop the progress of Jamaat-e-Ahmadiyya? Blah, blah, blah. So he is a relative of mine. He never answers anything deliberately, and he just goes and utters this invective on me all the time. and calls me Satan and calls me all kind of names. That is your typical Ahmadi who has no sense and who cannot ask a rational question, and all he can do is personal attacks. And he says, stop the it is not my intention to stop the progress of the Ahmadi. In fact, I'm fond of saying that the Ahmadiyya was a vaccination for Islam. After what happened with Mirza Ghulam Ahmad and his followers, no serious person has claimed to be a prophet after that. So that door has been closed. Just like a vaccine gives you have one shot of vaccine and it gives you immunity against a disease. The Ahmadiyya is vaccination of the Islamic community against such strange doctrines brought by new prophets. So I hope you survive as a symbol of how a cult operates, and so that people can see that and they are discouraged from following in your footsteps. So there is no desire on my behalf to destroy or it's all in your imagination. The same dichotomy between us and them. So with this answer to the questions, I come now to page number where we left off last time. Was page, yes. So the question of Mormons has been brought up. Mirza Nasir says, let them solve their problems, let us solve ours. Jaja Bakhtiar Sahab says, this is page number 85, says, sir, we are concerned with the freedom of religion all over the world. You have got Ahmadis there also. You have to worry about their welfare. Mirza Nasir, नहीं, हमारे Ahmadis जो हैं और जो ईसाई हैं उनका वहाँ कोई क्लैश नहीं और ना दूसरे मुसलमानों का. So Mirza Nasir is saying, avoid the Mormon question because we have no clash there between Muslims and Christians. Jaja Bakhtiar says, no, मैं generally कहता हूँ, you have relief on Declaration of Human Rights because Mirza Nasir Ahmad interrupts. Universal Declaration of Human Rights does not clash with Mormons to my mind. Jaja Bakhtiar, no, a Mormon says that it is obligatory on me, my religion enjoins it, that if circumstances permit. Mirza Nasir interrupts again. और साथ ये भी कहता है कि मेरा फ़र्ज़ पूरा हो जाता है अगर मैं छुप के कोई औरत रख लूँ शादी करके छुपा के कानून से. साथ वो ये भी कहता है, मैंने पढ़ी हैं उनकी किताबें और यही उनकी प्रैक्टिस है. यानी मॉर्मन्स जो हैं अगर वो ये कहते हैं दूसरी शादी का ऐलान करना ज़रूरी है तो क्लैश हो जाता है. What he's saying is the Mormons' practice is that they can hide, can keep a woman hidden, they can marry her hidden and from the law, hidden from the law. And then he says that they can also practice, and this is in their books, and I have read their books, and if you have to announce the polygamy or announce the second marriage, then there is a clash. He was interrupting Jaja Bakhtiar. He was trying to preempt him. He was a bit worried now. And Jaja Bakhtiar twice said, Mirza Sahib, and he tried to get back to his question. He couldn't finish his question. And then he said, the Attorney General, Jaja Bakhtiar says, Mirza Sahib, मैं पूछता हूँ जब states में एक आदमी रेलर था. Now he's coming to the actual question, which Mirza Sahib interrupted him. He says, Mirza Sahib, I asked you, in the United States, there was a man named Railer. He married twice, unfortunately. And he said that I belong to the Mormon church and it is obligatory, and he didn't hide this thing. It's obligatory and it's part of my religion, and he produced the authority. Mirza Nasir Ahmad, I have read their books, Jaja Bakhtiar, and the court said, we send you to jail for 5 years or 7 years for bigamy, for disrupting our society. We do not accept this much freedom of religion. So the state could interfere? That's the question he was trying to ask. Mirza Nasir, the state commits one type of blunder, that gentleman commits another type of blunder. So again, Mirza Nasir is not addressing the issue that is being asked. And just my advice to all my friends is that whenever you compare Ahmadiyya to Mormons, you get answers to many things. Why they are not Muslim, why there can be laws, and you get an answer to a lot of things when you compare the two. And in fact, there was a Christian scholar who wrote an article which is available on the current wiki called The Mormons of Islam. Ahmadis, the Mormons of Islam. Jaja Bakhtiar says, he tries to follow up this. He has conceded the point. He has said both made a blunder, the person and the state. But again, he's now trying to come from another angle, which is very similar question. Again, very smart guy. Jaja Bakhtiar says, now I take another extreme example. Sir, supposing a Hindu lady at Noshki or Tharparkar in Pakistan says that she wants to observe their old Hindu law, Sati, and wants to burn herself with her dead husband. Mirza Nasir, I do not know of any such law of Sati in the Hindu Mazhab. Mr. Jaja Bakhtiar, no, but supposing that we, Mirza Nasir, but there is no such law. Jaja Bakhtiar, they used to practice this. मिर्जा नासिर, नहीं आप मिसाल कैसे दे सकते हैं जो चीज़ अभी जाजा बख्तियार ये होता है कि नहीं मिर्जा नासिर, लेकिन वो मजहब के मुताबिक नहीं होता रहा, रवायात के मुताबिक होता रहा है. So what he's saying, Mirza Nasir is saying, how can you give this example? This thing does not exist in the Hindu religion, does not ask women to go and burn themselves on the funeral pyre of their husbands. Jaja Bakhtiar says, does this happen or not? Mirza Nasir says, if it happens, it doesn't happen according to the religion, it just happens according to their traditions. Jaja Bakhtiar, Hindu mat to sara rawayat hai, unka mazhab, but they call it religion. He says Hinduism is all about traditions. They call it a religion. Mirza Nasir, why don't we? Jaja Bakhtiar, but no, you cannot deny that. Mirza Nasir, right. आप इस्लाम की मिसाल दें. Give an example from Islam. So Mirza Nasir has now interrupted and turned away the Mormon example and the example of a Hindu woman who believes that she has to kill herself, burn herself on the funeral pyre of her husband. And these two examples Mirza Nasir does not accept. Jaja Bakhtiar, I'm just saying, supposing, Mirza Nasir interrupts again, नहीं हम ये तो supposition हमारी बहुत दूर चली गई. So Mirza Nasir is trying very hard to get out of this stranglehold by giving an example of other religions. So now Jaja Bakhtiar Sahib will try another hypothetical atheist example. And then Mirza Nasir will be forced to admit, as we will see by the end of this episode, that he will be forced to admit the argument. But Mirza Nasir knew that the state can pass a law against anybody harming themselves or any religion saying that something is a must which is against the laws of the state. नहीं तो जब फिर आपसे और सवाल पूछूंगा, हाँ पूछिए ताकि position clarify हो. He says, okay, I want to clarify the position, that's why I'm asking these hypothetical questions. Mirza Nasir says, हाँ साहिब, मैं तो जवाब देता रहूंगा जो मेरी अकल और समझ के मुताबिक हो. I will continue to answer according to my intellect and my understanding. Jaja Bakhtiar, you said that anybody has the right to choose his religion. Mirza Nasir says, yes, definitely. Mr. Jaja Bakhtiar, the prosecutor, the Attorney General says, now by choose, you mean to select one of the religions already existing, or you can found and start a new religion also, freedom of religion. Mirza Nasir, yes, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, in religion, inside the religion, they have also included atheism. Attorney General, so he can start a new religion also, a person. Mirza Nasir, मैंने बताया है ना एथेइज्म, उन्होंने खुद उसको यूनिवर्सल डिक्लेरेशन में रखा. ये चाइना ने, मुझे सही याद नहीं, लेकिन यूनिवर्सल डिक्लेरेशन में एथेइज्म बतौर रिलीजन की उन्होंने. So Mirza Nasir is saying China, he doesn't remember, but says China most probably put atheism as one of the ideologies in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Jaja Bakhtiar, no sir, but I say that a new religion could be started by a person. Mirza Nasir, a sect of atheism. Yes, so he's still focused on atheism. He doesn't want to get to the right question. Jaja Bakhtiar, no, but they may not say atheism. There may be a new sect of Christians. For instance, they say there are 100, 200, 3 sects, Christian sects in America only. Mirza Nasir, I thought we were talking religion. So now he's atheism and now he's talking sects. He doesn't want to answer the question. Jaja Bakhtiar, no. Mirza Nasir, now I find that we are talking of sects and religion. I mean, the question is very simple, that you are finding a new religion or a sect or a branch or whatever. Jaja Bakhtiar, sects. Mirza Nasir Ahmad, हाँ, sects जो हैं वो हर एक हैं. There are hundreds, thousands schools of and he just drops it there. Jaja Bakhtiar, suppose that somebody starts a new sect in a religion. Mirza Nasir Ahmad, हाँ ठीक है, okay. Mr. Jaja Bakhtiar also has the freedom. मिर्जा नासिर, हाँ बिल्कुल. मसलन मैं आपको मिसाल दे दूं कि मेरी बात वाजे हो जाए. एक शख्स ये ऐलान करता है खड़े होकर कि मैं किसी को नाराज नहीं करना चाहता कि देवबंदी मजहब जो है उसमें ये चीजें उन्होंने रखा हुआ है. सो मिर्जा नासिर saying yes, you can start a new religion. For example, I don't want to alienate the देवबंदीज here. मैं इस अकीदे को छोड़कर और बाकी बातों में देवबंदी हूं तो नया सेक्ट बन गया. तो he says, okay, I don't like this about देवबंदीज, but I like the rest. So he is going to form a new school of thought or sect. अगर वो एक बात भी छोड़ दें तो नया सेक्ट बन गया. If they leave one out of the beliefs of the देवबंदी, then they become a different sect. Yahya Bakhtiar, now sir, I am taking Mirza Nasir, इसकी मेरे ख्याल में इजाजत होनी चाहिए. He says, in my opinion, Mirza Nasir says, yes, this should be allowed. You should be able to create your new religion or your new sect. Yahya Bakhtiar, now sir, I have taken the extreme example that supporting group of hippies in Pakistan. We've got a lot of hippies. This is the 1970s. In these days, Mirza Nasir, are they human? Yahya Bakhtiar, of course. I hope you will not deny them that right. Mirza Nasir, I did in England, and these hippies, they accepted my version. Mirza Nasir says, Yahya Bakhtiar, these hippies declare, announce, proclaim that they are Christian of hippie sect, and then they further announce. Mirza Nasir interrupts. Have they been punished for this? Yahya Bakhtiar, nobody can punish them. Mirza Nasir, then the question is quite clear. So he's interrupting him. He doesn't want him to continue with the argument. Yahya Bakhtiar, no, but I'm asking a further question. When I come to their rituals, suppose they further say that marriage is not an institution with divine sanction. Christ never married, therefore all sex relations are permissible, all sorts of them. One declaration. Then they further declare that man was born naked and he has the right to go about naked everywhere. That is the second declaration. Now this is the religion. Thirdly, they say that human sacrifice, ritual feelings is good for human. Mirza Nasir interrupts him again. Is this a problem for Pakistan? Mr. Yahya Bakhtiar, no sir, I'm just asking a proposition that if they declare this is our religion and we call ourselves Christian and they practice is, then we have come to practice, they start going about naked in the street, do you think that the state should interfere? Got his point. Mirza Nasir Ahmad, subject to morality. That's exactly what the European Constitution, the European Article 9 says and what the Pakistan Constitution says. Yahya Bakhtiar, so you agree that Mirza Nasir, subject to morality, yes, I agree. Yahya Bakhtiar, and they cannot kill either subject to morality or subject to public order. Mirza Nasir, yes. Yahya Bakhtiar, so you agree that there are restrictions on freedom of religion. Mirza Nasir Ahmad, there are restrictions and they should be wisely complied with. Mr. Yahya Bakhtiar, and those restrictions have to be judged by Mirza Nasir Ahmad, by the competent authority. This has been discussed, which we haven't discussed in the English side, but we discussed on the Urdu side. Yahya Bakhtiar, competent authority, that is, they will make law and the court will carry out public morality. Mirza Nasir Ahmad, by the competent authority. So this is now, we go to the next page, page number 92, Yahya Bakhtiar, yes, by the competent authority. I do not want to ask you further questions because you mean legislature and courts. One will make the law and the other will interpret. Mirza Nasir, by competent authority, I do mean competent authority. Mr. Yahya Bakhtiar, and do you not want to define it any further? Mirza Nasir, I need not. Yahya Bakhtiar, and you don't mean, Mirza Nasir, it is quite clear. Yahya Bakhtiar, so this freedom of religion is subject to law. The law cannot say that in spite of the fact that a particular group of people, Mirza Nasir interrupts. अच्छा, यहाँ मैं वजाहत कर दूं, अखलाक जो है ना, पब्लिक मोरालिटी, इसको दो मानों में हम इस्तेमाल करते हैं. पब्लिक मोरालिटी कैन बी यूज्ड इन टू सेंसेस. एक मजहबी माने में, मसलन इस्लाम ने बड़ा तफसीली मोरालिटी, कोड ऑफ मोरालिटी हमें दिया है. One meaning of public morality is code of the religious code of morality like Islam has given us. और एक वो morality है जो इंसान की फितरत के अंदर है, in the very nature of man. So that is the other aspect of morality, is what is inside the nature of man. वो खुदा ताला ने इसको दी है. God has given man that. जिसके ऊपर वो मसलन वो कौमें भी अमल कर रही हैं जो अल्लाह ताला पर ईमान ही नहीं लाई. And nations that don't believe in Allah also practice that kind of morality. लेकिन उनकी फितरत के अंदर ये है कि ये morality है. It's in their nature that they know that this is morality. ये अखलाक नहीं, हमें इनको नहीं छोड़ना चाहिए. इसकी मोटी मिसाल चीन की है. So these are things that we should not leave, and the biggest example of this is China. चेयरमैन माओ ज़ेतुंग ने एक जगह लिखा है कि हमें कोशिश करनी चाहिए कि वो तलबा जो हमारे तालीमी इदारों में पढ़कर बाहर निकलें पूरी तरह बाअखलाक हों. So Chairman Mao of China at that time has said that the students who leave school should have a high degree of morality, of morals, akhlaq. तो वो बाअखलाक हों, they should be moral. का ये मतलब तो नहीं कि वो जो इस्लाम ने अखलाक पेश किए हैं उसके मुताबिक बाअखलाक इंसान के सामने पेश किए हैं उनके सामने बाअखलाक हों. So it doesn't mean that the morality preached by Islam is the same as the one that Mao is suggesting. ये जो इसके नीचे गिरता है तो फिर मजाक है subject to morality का. If you fall below that, then you are making a mockery out of the phrase subject to morality. So he has been influenced by the hippie question and saying that walking about in the streets naked is a morality that even people who don't subscribe to a religion also subscribe. That's the angle Mirza Nasir is taking. But again, he's gone on a bit of a tangent here. Yahya Bakhtiar, subject to morality, but the concept of morality changes from time to time, from area to area, and from place to place. So Mirza Nasir times say that there are some absolute morality, a minimum standard, and then a religion-specified standard. Yahya Bakhtiar is saying no, morality can change from time to time and place to place. Mirza Nasir, as far as a non-religious type of morality is concerned, you are right. As far as Islam is concerned, the fundamental truths and realities of morality do not change ever. Yahya Bakhtiar, no, but if a person does not observe parda, the veil, or goes about semi-naked, you call it immoral. In some cases, it will not be considered immoral. Mirza Nasir Ahmad, why call it immoral? Call it against the laws of Quran. So now he's shifting back to the religious morality. Yahya Bakhtiar, you call everything against the law of Quran? Not Mirza Nasir Ahmad. I call everything against the law of Quran where we find a law in Quran about it. Mr. Yahya Bakhtiar, no, but if Mirza Nasir, not otherwise. Yahya Bakhtiar, a person is a Christian and he says, this is my right, I am not a Muslim. Mirza Nasir, he has got every right. You cannot interfere. Yahya Bakhtiar, he can go about naked. Mirza Nasir, not naked, without parda. So now he's saying naked should be stored, but without parda is fine. Mr. Yahya Bakhtiar, why not? Mirza Nasir, yes. Yahya Bakhtiar, why not? If you say the man is born free, man is born naked, why wear clothes? Mirza Nasir, because it is against the rights of other people. See where he got him? They say your rights stop where my rights start. You cannot come to my face and tell me who is Sahaba, like the Qadianis do, who is Radiyallahu Ta'ala Anhu, who is Ummul Mumineen, who is, this is, I have my own belief concept. You cannot use my terminology against me. For example, the Amir of England, UK does not call himself Archbishop of Canterbury, which is the title reserved for the Anglican head of the Church of England. Or Ahmadi Amirs don't call themselves cardinals. There are certain reserved terminology that has evolved over time. So the biggest problem in Pakistan was that Ahmadis were going to Muslims and trying to preach them their religion by using the Muslim terminology. And there has been a recent issue about this with Christians in Malaysia, where Christians use the word Allah for God and then translated the Bible with Allah in there, and the reverence that Muslims have for Allah got a little mixed up. I don't want to talk about that issue right now, but all I'm saying is that there is this concept of reserved terminology. So he said, now Mirza Nasir has admitted that a competent authority can put restrictions, certain restrictions on religion where it interferes with other people at the point where it's not private, not inside you, not in your place of worship, but where it's published and it interferes with somebody else. So we are at that point now. Yahya Bakhtiar, exactly. That means that you can exercise your freedom of religion so long as you do not affect others or deprive others of their rights. Mirza Nasir, quiet. Yahya Bakhtiar, thank you. He made his point. Mirza Nasir Ahmad, quite. Yahya Bakhtiar. Now, sir, if this sect of hippies who call themselves Christians, we're going to continue now, very smart guy, Mirza Nasir Ahmad, is it a fact? Now he's saying, he's just trying to, he's squirming. Yahya Bakhtiar, I'm just giving you a ridiculous example. I'm giving you an example. You see, it is ridiculous, okay? मिर्जा नासिर अहमद, मैं आपको बताऊं 1970 में एक मैंने दौरा किया था वेस्ट अफ्रीका का भी, यूरोप का भी. वहां मुझसे ये सवाल उन्होंने किया कि हिप्पीज के मुतालिक आपकी क्या राय है. He says, I went in 1970 to Europe and to Africa, and there a question was posed to me that what is your opinion about the hippies? मैंने उन्हें कहा कि मेरे नज़दीक तो इंसानों की सी जिंदगी वो नहीं गुजारते. They don't live like human beings. That's what he said. लेकिन इसका ये मतलब नहीं कि मैं उनसे नफरत करता हूँ. It doesn't mean that I hate them. या हकारत की निगाह से देखता हूँ और treat them with contempt. मुझे उन पर रहम आता है. I feel pity for them. और मैं दुआ करता हूँ कि वो इंसानी इक़दार को समझने लगे. And I pray that they start to understand human values. हमारे बुनियादी चीज़ जो इस्लाम ने हमें सिखाई है वो ये है कि इंसान को पहले इंसानी इक़दार सीखनी चाहिए. इस्लाम has taught us that humans should first learn human values और उन पर अमल करना चाहिए and obey them. तब रूहानी तरक्यात का सवाल पैदा होता है. And then you can do your spiritual uplifting, whatever. So, but again, he's now going into the hippie. He's saying it's a ridiculous hypothetical example, and now he's gone off on a tangent again. Yahya Bakhtiar, now sir, all these examples were simply meant to show that freedom of religion as given is subject to restrictions, and it may be by law. All I was submitting was that this freedom of religion is subject to restrictions which could be made by law, imposed by law. That was all I was saying. He says, forget this tangent here. This is the point, and you have conceded the point. Mirza Nasir Ahmad, very carefully and extremely rationally applied. Very carefully and extremely rationally applied. Fantastic. This is what Mirza Nasir is saying. Yes. But they should be careful, and this is exactly what the European Human Rights Article 9 says, that states should be very careful in certain religious areas. And I believe that some of the laws passed in 1984 were not carefully and extremely rationally applied. So it again shows that Mirza Nasir agreed, and he had a very good phrase here, that Yahya Bakhtiar, rationally. Mirza Nasir, yes. Yahya Bakhtiar, naturally, because we presume the law is rational, we presume the courts are working honestly and properly. That presumption is there. So yes, the courts in Pakistan are not up to par with some other countries, but like the Ahmadiyya say that they're completely biased and completely irrational is false. The country is functioning. People sent to jail, people are, it's not a perfect system, maybe not even as good as India, but maybe better than other third world countries. So again, the point I'm trying to make is that yes, the courts operate rationally, and if you read the opinions in many cases, they're quite rational. So my suggestion to Ahmadis is they shouldn't, in their hatred for Pakistan, they shouldn't even go against the institutions of Pakistan that do work there. The presumption is there. Mirza Nasir, and we hope that those who execute these laws are also very honest and rational. Mr. Yahya Bakhtiar, yes, rational and honest, that is presumed. Now, sir, you have seen the Constitution of Pakistan. In the preamble of the Constitution, the title, it is called the Constitution of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan. So this whole problem in 1974 came about because the Constitution was passed in 1973. And that Constitution was, before that, Pakistan did not have a Constitution. So there was no point of having an amendment or anything else before there was a Constitution. So this is why I always say that having a Constitution in place that had Islam as its religion, and having a popularly elected parliament, and a group of people who were trying to declare Ahmadiyya kafir, and the Ahmadiyya who gave them the opportunity to agitate, this was inevitable. That is the argument I make. That shows what sort of character is armed, or it has. That will be for anybody to judge. Then in the preamble it is stated, among other things, that wherein the Muslims shall be enabled to order their lives in the individual and collective spheres in accordance with the teachings and requirements of Islam as said out in the Holy Quran and Sunnah. Mirza Nasir, and as they believe, Mr. Yahya Bakhtiar, naturally every sect is free. Mirza Nasir, every sect is free. Mirza Jaja Bakhtiar, every sect as they believe. Now, but that shows, that religion is part of the duty imposed on the legislature to see that the Muslims, Mirza Nasir Ahmad, that all sects of Muslims, Mr. Jaja Bakhtiar, all sects, I'm not excluding anybody, I'm not excluding. You need not jump to conclusion that I'm excluding you. He was interrupting a lot. Mr. Nasir Ahmad, I'm sorry. He apologizes. It's very good of him. Mr. Jaja Bakhtiar, the point is simple. Wherein the Muslims shall be enabled to order their lives in the individual and collective spheres in accordance with the teachings and requirements of Islam. So that means that the legislature will see to it that it frames laws which require the Muslims to live their lives in accordance with the requirements of the Quran and Sunnah as interpreted by different sects. Mirza Nasir Ahmad, as interpreted. Mr. Jaja Bakhtiar, that means that there is a duty imposed on the legislature to make laws in religion matters. That is my first question, Mirza Nasir Ahmad. We should not generalize. You see the trap. That this is not a secular constitution of Pakistan. It is one of the few countries in the world whose constitution includes religion. The other, I am very fond of saying, are Nepal, Israel, and the United Kingdom. Mr. Jaja Bakhtiar, no, I'm just asking that because they have to make laws to see to it that they live their lives in accordance with the injunctions of Islam. Mr. Nasir, iska matlab ye hai, it means that, Mr. Jaja Bakhtiar, I won't say that because a law is made by a Sunni, Mr. Nasir Ahmad. No. Mr. Jaja Bakhtiar, it should be enforced on a Shia. Mr. Nasir Ahmad, इसमें कोई झगड़ा ही नहीं आपस में, वो झगड़ा नहीं मेरे ज़हन में इस वक्त. This is not the problem or the conflict in my mind. इसका मतलब ये है कि हुकूमत का ये फ़र्ज़ है कि अगर जमाती अहमदिया ये समझती है कि कुरानी तालीम के मुताबिक कब्रों पर चढ़ावे नहीं चढ़ाने चाहिए, it means that if the Ahmadiyya Jamaat thinks that you should not put flowers or the blanket type whatever on the offering on the tombs, Jaja Bakhtiar, I'm not suggesting this, Mirza Nasir, नहीं, तो उनका फ़र्ज़ है कि वो देखें कि जमाती अहमदिया कब्रों पर चढ़ावे नहीं चढ़ाती. Then it is their duty to see that Jamaat does not go put those colored blankets on the tombs. Jaja Bakhtiar, nahi. Mirza Nasir, theek hai. So he's just gone off on a tangent. I don't know what his mind was thinking there, but it makes no sense. Jaja Bakhtiar, that is why I say, but they can make laws. I'm only concerned with the principle. He's talking about principle here, that the legislature and the parliament can make laws on this subject. Second thing is, sir, Mirza Nasir Ahmad, in the light of the fundamental beliefs, Mr. Jaja Bakhtiar, yes, Mirza Nasir, of every sect, Mirza Jaja Bakhtiar, you are going, sir, in detail, but sir, I'm saying in principle, you give this power to the legislature. Mirza Nasir Ahmad, मैं इसलिए डिटेल में जा रहा हूँ कि ये ना हो कि कल को हम डिटेल्स भूल जाएं. He says, I'm going in detail because I fear that tomorrow we may forget about these details. Jaja Bakhtiar, nahi ji nahi. You can explain and add to anything which you say in answer to my question. I am not, Mirza Nasir Ahmad interrupts. Nahi, theek hai. Mr. Jaja Bakhtiar, I'm not suggesting that, but I'm just saying that in principle, this is a duty imposed by the constitution. Interruption. Mr. Nasir, ye mic kaam nahi kar raha. He has a problem with his microphone. Jaja Bakhtiar, the other one, Mr. Nasir, ya marzi nahi kaam kar rahi, yahan nuksan nahi hai. Theek hai ji. So just saying something is wrong with his mic. Jaja Bakhtiar, I'm just submitting that in principle the constitution has imposed a duty duty on the National Assembly, on the Parliament, that they should see to it by making laws that the Muslims live their lives in accordance with the injunctions of the Quran and Sunnah. Mr. Nasir Ahmad, that Ahmadis live their lives in accordance with their interpretation. Mr. Jaja Bakhtiar, yes. Mr. Nasir Ahmad, and Wahhabis live their lives in accordance with their interpretation. Mr. Jaja Bakhtiar, yes. And Barelvi, yes. Mr. Jaja Bakhtiar, I'm only asking that the legislature can do it. Mr. Nasir Ahmad, with that detail, Jaja Bakhtiar, yes. Mr. Nasir Ahmad, I quite agree with it. It was a very simple point. So, we will go to the next point in the next video, which is the Article 2 of the Constitution, that Islam is the state religion of Pakistan. So what we have proven here is that Mirza Nasir has admitted that the state can make laws subject to public morality and subject to its impact on other people, and that Pakistan's legislature is empowered by the Constitution to make laws regarding religion. Mirza Nasir qualified that, saying that provided every religions have their laws according to them, or every sect or whatever. So I would just like to point out at the very end that Israel, again, a country founded on a religious principle, has laws that decide who is a Jew and who is not a Jew, because Israel gives citizenship to any Jew. If you go and land on the Israeli airport and you are a Jew, you become a citizen the moment you set your foot, or a few hours or days after that, you become a citizen of Israel. And there are laws that says what kind of ancestry you have to check, what kind of beliefs you have to check. Now, there are a lot of poor people in Africa who go to Israel to work and they claim to be Jews, and then they go through a rigorous process whereby they are determined to be Jews or not determined to be Jews. So if your constitution and your country is founded on religion, and the legislature is empowered to make laws regarding religion by the constitution, it's not a secular constitution, then it has the right to form laws which protect others or which protect the public morality. If you have any questions, please send them to us. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll be with you next time. May Allah be with you.